everyone, welcome back to Agape Gardens. My name is Carolyn, and today I want to share with you our journey to expanding our garden. So our garden space I've shown in garden tours in the past, and it's very limited. So if we wanted to grow things like potatoes or watermelon or anything that kind of takes up a large footprint, we wouldn't be able to grow those things. Or to give up half of my bed space to grow onions wouldn't exactly make sense. So the approach that we've taken is to try to use the vacant space in the city of St. Louis where we live. We gained access to a piece of property through a city program about the middle of last year in 2020. And so we have taken some steps to make that into a place that can produce food so that we can try and be more sustainable. So the first step, once we get permission to use this vacant lot, was to clear the brush, to clean up the property. You can see in some of these photos that there's a lot of trash and a lot of things in the soil that we had to kind of clean out. Once we cleaned up the lot by picking up the trash and clearing the brush along the fence line and at the front of the property, we started by building some compost stalls out of some old pallets so that we would have somewhere to go with that brush. This is probably not a permanent place for us. This is a place that we can use to grow food, to beautify the community, and to be more sustainable. When we first acquired access to this property, it was fall. And so what we decided to do was take the area that we wanted to put the garden beds and cover that with some old billboards to try and suppress those weeds and kill that grass off as much as we could. We did that and it just set all winter long. And then in the spring we came, lifted that up, tilled the soil. We're not huge fans of tilling, but this soil had been compacted and sitting and we weren't sure of the condition of the soil. So we went ahead and tilled the soil. Then it was time to build garden beds. Now we knew this was going to be a huge task, so we enlisted the help of our friends. Many of our friends and family expressed an interest in helping us to build this garden. And so we did. We called on our community. We had a work day where a bunch of folks came out and helped us and worked so hard for so long, and we are so incredibly grateful. The process was to take all of this cardboard we had collected, make sure we pulled off all the tape or removed any staples that was in the cardboard, laid it down, and then built compost rows on top of it. These are raised beds that don't have sides, but they're still raised beds. We built all of these beds with hand tools and wheelbarrows. We did get an opportunity at a later date to borrow some equipment, and we used that equipment to kind of add a little bit more compost to each one of the beds. If you want to hear more about why we use this method to build these beds, check out the link to our How to Build a Garden Bed video. Once the garden beds were built, then it was time to plant. And the first thing that I wanted to plant was perennials. Because we'll probably be using this lot for a few years, we'll be able to harvest some from those perennials, and once we leave, it'll be something that's already established for the next person that's able to use this property. Much like the pear tree that's on the back of the property, that was planted there years and years ago by someone else, and we and other community members are still reaping the benefits from that. My planting style is a little bit of mixing beauty and utility. However, most things have a purpose. So on this bed you'll see that there is an echinacea. I started this echinacea from seed. It lived in our yard in a pot for a year and has been transplanted here into this perennial bed. There's a marshmallow plant I started from seed, some tarragon, a yarrow I got from a friend, some curry, rhubarb, roselle, a blueberry bush, raspberry canes and blackberry canes. And then a liatris. This liatris is a blazing star variety. It's native to our area and they can reach up to 5 feet tall. And finally, a little elephant ear. In the rest of the garden, we have a row of tomatoes. Most of these tomatoes are hybrid tomatoes. I started about half of these from seed. The other half were from a local plant sale with some varieties I hadn't tried before, so I wanted to try those. We have a row of peppers. We have a bed that has eggplant, tomatillos, ground cherries in that. And then we have a row of potatoes, a row of onions, and then a row of brassicas, which is probably going to be turned over and have squash or green beans or something else planted there. In the front of the property, we have a kiddie pool that I went ahead and planted strawberry plants in. We have a couple of dahlias, a peony, and another roselle. And we actually, along that same fence line where the perennial bed is, we went ahead and planted some lavender bushes and some more liatris. And then we made our way around our trellis netting fence, which is, the purpose of that trellis netting is so that plants can vine on there and have kind of a living fence. And so we have planted a few squash varieties, some pink banana squash, some yellow banana squash, some delicata squash, and a spaghetti squash in various places along that trellis fence. And at each post, or almost every post, we have planted sunflowers. We're really big fans of sunflowers, their regenerative abilities, and we think they're beautiful. So we went ahead and planted those along there. The goal is to cover all of the soil so that we don't have to complete regular maintenance like mowing the lawn. You can see we have a tarp. It's actually an old billboard that we got from someone, and we have laid that out to try and suppress that grass and those weeds. And we're actually going to plant some squash, some pumpkins, and some watermelon along that billboard and let the vines grow over that billboard so that kind of takes care of covering that soil for this year. We're also going to be putting down wood chips to cover the pathways and all of the area that is not planted in. If you all are interested in some continuing tours of this property, please make sure to leave that down in the comments. It's a little bit difficult to film there because it is next to a highway, and so the noise is rather high. So that's why I have to kind of film separately to explain what's going on in the video. If you have any suggestions on how to fill garden space or what you would grow if you had the space, leave that down in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I hope you have enjoyed this tour of our expansion garden, and I'll see you on the next one.